So what do you guys do with this emaciated half-elf who's begging for his non-present friend to save him from death?
Riot's gonna start healing him because Eric is so much worse a cleric than Riot.
That's fair.
Question.
Uh-huh.
When you cast... What are you healing him with?
I don't think I was marking my cast on my... trying to figure out where I was marking those. I think I was casting them from my character sheet on Beyond.
Here's why it's relevant, because if you cast Cure Wounds using a cleric spell slot, it's going to smell like fish. And Elduff will find that to be very comforting.
It's very soothing.
But Aura of Vitality comes in the form of Riot's eclectic brand of ear candy.
Yeah.
And Elduff might not be as enthused about that.
What level can I cast Healing Word at the moment? I'll give him a 4th level Healing Word, because I don't have Cure Wounds.
Okay.
Heck yeah.
Let's see. So
Just rub the trident on him a bit.
5d4? 5d4, sure.
Just kind of rub it on there. He's good. Oh, man. That's a very eclectic roll.
Oh, the good old 1s and 4s. You got a full house, my friend.
I think that's 18 hit points gets back.
Okay. And you see some of his strength and vitality are returned to him. And he seems to be a little more lucid after a few moments.
Are we still in the control room?
Yes. Nobody's left the control room yet. I got the Relentless map out because I'm assuming you guys aren't going for another lap around the hut.
Oh, no.
Guys, I want you to forgive me ahead of time for what I'm about to say, but this hut sucks. Let's go.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, Eldov, can you stand?
Oh, it's fascinating, but
he can stand, but he's going to have difficulty moving. I mean, he's been hanging from a ceiling for probably a couple of decades on fire, so...
Ferocity rolls up a bit of parchment and whacks Destil on the nose with it. No! No, we're going!
It's like the opening scene from Phantom Pain. It's going to take him 35 minutes before he can walk on his feet. And you have to play the entire 35 minutes.
Do we have...
It's only 10 minutes to get him a floating disc to ride on.
That's true.
That's probably a better idea, because, like, I don't think we have anybody in the party anymore who's strong. Like, we had Serenity, and now nobody can just, like, carry somebody like it's no sweat.
Well, he's not going to need somebody to carry him in their arms like a baby. Like, Elda is too proud for that. But he needs to lean on somebody's shoulder as they move.
Okay, then...
Liberation offers his shoulder.
Yeah, go ahead, Liberation. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, once his lucidity begins to return, he has a great many questions for you. He has no idea who you people are, or how you stumbled upon his hut, or he doesn't even seem to have a very good conception of what has happened to him.
Near as I can tell, the hut ate you. Or was in the process of eating you.
And
he's right. I know magic. The hut ate you.
And Elda shakes his head, and he says, no, we learned very early on not to affix any sort of extra-dimensional pockets into this space, because they grow teeth, and it's very unnerving.
Yeah.
At least that's consistent.
Where are you guys taking it?
Should we get Cube on the way out?
Just about to suggest we get Cube as well.
Yeah.
We should take him to Cube.
He was on the other side of the door, keeping the door open in case you guys had to retreat.
Yeah, so he's like right here.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's just take him out of this room at least.
Okay, take him back out into Cube's library.
Right.
And when Elda lays eyes on Cube, you see this mixture of like sadness and like horror on his face for a moment as he sees like what the ravages of time have done to his companion. He sees Cube's scarring and injuries. And he opens his mouth to say something, but then he shuts it again. And he leans further onto Liberation's shoulder. He says, perhaps a tactical retreat is the best course of action.
Well, here's the problem with that tactical retreat is right outside this hut of yours is a giant battle tank full of angry Yugoloths.
Yeah, they're no problem. They're gonna hold up their end of the bargain, I'm pretty sure.
Well, here's the other thing, right? Is your guys' reward is you got this Eldov fellow? They owe me a favor. I don't give a shit about this guy.
There's one more. Okay, so we're gonna give this hut to the Yugoloths, right? Because it's gonna backfire on them the way it backfired on Eldov.
And Eldov cuts you off, and he says, "No, take me to the guest rooms. Let me to rest for a few hours. Then I'll go back and reassert control of the hut."
No.
Hey, look at Cube. Look at Cube. That one's on you. No more hut.
And he does. He looks at Cube for a moment, and he begins speaking to Cube in a language that you guys, I don't think any of you speak it, but you're probably familiar with it. It's like a pidgin of Common and Modron-ish. Like a very mathematical language used for communication. You've heard it spoken because you guys are all from Sigil.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a quick discussion, a quick conversation back and forth. And then Cube begins to cast a spell.
Okay.
Cube, what are you doing?
I don't know. Cube's pretty cool. I'm okay with it.
Wait, nobody's reacting
Yeah,
to that?
I'm not worried.
No?
At Liberation, you suddenly feel Eldov become dead weight against your body. You have to quickly wrap your other arm around him to keep him from slipping to the floor. And Cube says that he's put him to sleep, so he won't be any trouble. Hopefully, we'll be in a safer circumstance when he wakes up and far away from here.
Cube,
Brad, you're great.
There's one other person here who I'm worried about when the Yugoloths take over. I don't want them to kill this guy. Do you know him? He's kind of crazy now.
Cube says, "Forgive me, but that's... Speaking of the denizens of the hut over the years, you're going to have to narrow it down a little bit."
Actually, I'm not sure if he's real. We've met a couple of other people who definitely weren't real.
And he says again, speaking of the denizens of the hut, he says that some of the people you've encountered in the hut are real people who are trapped here, because the hut kind of rolls over worlds like a Katamari, just taking pieces of them. Some of them are projections of the hut that are created along with the rooms. And then some are something in between. He suspects over the course of his research that a real person in the hut for too long, who doesn't have a very forceful personality, can become one of these shadows, one of these projections.
Do we want to at least pay a visit to Crazy Man in his shack?
I mean, if we can get him out of here, I think the blacksmith is probably going to be fine. He seems to enjoy staying here and making stuff.
And the critic, I don't think we have to worry about.
The food critic.
No, he's fake.
So you're gonna go collect the Crazy Man?
Yeah.
He absolutely seems real. Like, he's got a physical form, and he fights you as you try to take him away. So what measures do you take to bring him safely out of the hut?
Let me see what I've got prepped.
How many more hit dice of sleep you got, Q?
What I've got prepped is a fist. I'm just going to knock him out and bring him with us.
So Riot's just had it. She's just going to thump him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything non-lethal. I was just geared for that fight.
Okay.
Kelian briefly entertains the notion of finding the cat, but thinks better of it.
There is no sign of the cat anywhere. And I mean, you guys have to traverse a fair amount of at least the first layer of the hut, going to and fro, getting, collecting the crazy guy and getting all your affairs in order. And no, there's no sign of her anywhere.
Her loss, really.
Just,
I mean, yeah, she was going to live in luxury for a couple weeks if But if she doesn't want to come along, hey, that's fine.
It's Kelian
Let's be real.
feeling
If she
emptiness
wants to
inside.
follow us out, she will.
She can deal with those Arcana loths.
Yeah. Yeah. She can.
And then you guys step back out onto
Before
deck
we
of-
do, Liberation wants to again reiterate his trepidation at the idea of just handing this very powerful and very dangerous thing over to these guys.
This very powerful and dangerous thing is going to eat whoever pilots it alive. I mean,
Yeah, they're
They've
already
already got-
piloting
Yeah,
They're
they've already got a
piloting
tank that
a huge, dangerous thing that we can't take away from them. I don't think this is gonna make the situation worse.
it may even make the situation better.
Right? Exactly.
And what of your friend,
Dude,
the bugbear woman?
her we are gonna talk to them about.
Good.
But that's a thing that'll happen after we leave the hut.
Yeah.
Who?
So stepping out
How many
onto
friends
the
do
deck of
people
the
have
hut,
in here?
She's not in here.
and several of the Yugoloth guardsmen go and hail the Arcanoloth that you've had dealings with. They offer to secure Eldov for the time being in one of the guest rooms that you all were occupying to ensure that medically he's on the road to recovery.
I'm not going to leave Eldov alone with them.
So you want to stay in the room with Eldov?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah,
Anybody?
Nath's gonna go there too.
Nath and Liberation are both going? Okay. The Arcanoloth you were dealing with, though, he wants to speak with all of you right away. He's pleased that you were able to go in and secure your quarry, and he's very eager to get started with his business on the hut. He's ready to close the discussions right now.
I want to make this guy a deal.
Okay?
There's nothing stopping him from entering the hut and taking control. You know, that part of our arrangement is over.
Yep.
Once he gives us Mahogany back, then that part of our arrangement is over. What I will offer him is what we know of the safest way to get to the control room in exchange for Avgi Chinex.
Make a Wisdom 10 roll real quick.
Okay. It's at 14.
Okay. Are you making this offer in good faith?
Yes.
Knowing what you know about the hut, you can't guarantee that it will look the same when he goes in to take control. That information may or may not be helpful to him.
Yeah.
And
But I'm offering him the information that I have,
okay.
which is way more than he does.
And he chuckles to himself for a moment, and he says, "We have in our possession one of the greatest artifacts the multiverse has ever known, and the freedom and the life of one of your dear friends hangs in the balance, and you wish to negotiate for the neck of this bugbear peon."
It's a separate negotiation.
And he shakes his head and says, "She's yours to do with what you will. I'll be glad to be rid of her."
All right, and I'll describe the way to the control room for him.
Is everybody joining the Arcanoloth for this discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kelian is there.
So, except for Liberation and Nath, who are in the room with Eldov.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Cube is in there with you guys as well, but Cube, he immediately, he's very trepidatious about the situation. He knows what plane he's on, and he knows what Yugoloths are. But he's also convinced that you guys have the situation pretty well in hand. And knowing that Liberation and Nath are nearby, when he's in this room, he lets his guard down a little bit, and you see him kind of just power down into a peaceful state of sleep. rest and recuperate.
Let him rest.
Yeah, several of the Yugoloths are tending to Eldov, staunching up some of the petty wounds that he received throughout his imprisonment. They kind of tiptoe around you guys, and they kind of ask for your permission to proceed with any treatment that they're going to do. They don't cast a spell or wrap a bandage without your say-so.
That suits me just fine.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Nath, are you doing anything abjuration-y in the room at the time?
I mean, I was planning to do a private sanctum, but I'll wait till the Yugoloths are gone.
Okay. The rest of you guys are taken into a meeting room with the Arcanoloth, and it's very dusty in here. It's just piles and piles of books. It looks very disorganized. He has a very large desk, and he sweeps some stuff to the side of it. And there's not enough chairs for you all to sit. He apologizes for that, but he bids, for those of you who'd like to sit, there are 2 chairs available opposite his desk. All of you just being in this room, your hairs are kind of standing up on the back of your neck. You feel like you're being watched very closely in here.
I'll take a seat.
Who's in the other chair?
Ferocity will sit down. She stood enough.
Okay.
Yeah, Kelian will stand, and can I make a perception check to see if I can identify anything that might be spying on us?
Yeah, go ahead and make that roll.
All right.
So what are you? Are you looking around, or are you listening intently?
He's looking around. Maybe peepholes. I don't know if you'd recognize anything magical that would be a listening device, but standard stuff.
You have dark vision, but you can't see in magical darkness, correct?
Correct.
The only light in this room, it's candlelight in here. He's got small candles on his table. They look like they've been burning for years and years. Just a volcano of wax that spreads out over onto the table itself. That's illuminating the room. Kelian, looking up into the ceiling, you realize that you can't see the ceiling. It's very dark. And you don't see the flickering of candlelight play upon the shadows there. There's definitely a magical darkness in this room. Which means there's definitely space for something or someone to be perched in that area, watching or listening. You're pretty sure at this point that this Arcanoloth is not the only Yugoloth in the room.
Okay.
And he sets on the table. First, he sets a very old piece of parchment. And next to it, ink and quill. And then on top of that, he sets the imprisonment stone. And he slides it across. He says, when this contract is signed, our business on the matter of the dancing hut will be concluded.
All right. I'll read over the contract.
The contract stipulates that it's not like a magical contract or anything. You're not selling your soul to them. In fact, it looks very businesslike. It looks like a writ of conscription, stating that at the time when you and your company encounter Destin Locke, that the Relentless will serve as your vanguard. This is a contract of employment. You're hiring them.
Huh. What are we paying them?
No,
have we already paid them?
Services rendered.
Oh.
For gifting to them for Dancing Hut. That's what the terms of the contract say in paper, in ink and paper.
Did they mention Mahogany?
Not on the paper, no.
I'll point that out to the Yugoloth.
And he says that for bookkeeping purposes, your Genasi friend. I had to think for a second because Eldov's in the same game. I almost said half elven friend. He says your Genasi friend is immaterial, but I will point out that the magical terms of his release that I placed on the spell when I cast it involve you signing this contract. If it's not signed,
Can I instead check on that?
you don't have to. He's telling the truth.
Okay.
If you want Mahogany back, you either have to sign the contract or take the gem and figure out something else on your own.
All right.
Kelian is so torn on this because on the one hand, it's not really their hut to give, but on the other hand, yeah, we want a relentless army. Like, that's big. So,
yeah. So I'm going to put that question to Kelian, and actually, I guess Ferocity is the only one else here, and she doesn't care. So Kelian, we both on board with this?
Ferocity will raise up one finger, and she'll be like, yeah, I don't want to fight any Destin Lock. What do I get?
Yugoloth holds his hand to Ferocity, and he says, "One moment, my dear. I can only focus on one transaction at a time." And when he says this, he doesn't take his eyes off of Riot and Kelian.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for Kelian to give the okay.
I guess they seized the hut, so it's actually theirs. And because they seized it, all we did was
as soon as Riot figures out Kelian is on his taker shit, he just starts signing the contract.
Right? And as soon as you do, you sign the contract, the stone sitting on the table begins to shape and morph, and there's light, and then dampness, and then Mahogany is laying on the table, bewildered, and I have no idea in what form. I mean, let's say a tuna. Why not?
Let's go with normal standard Genasi Mahogany.
Okay.
Except, oh no, that's fine. And as soon as that happens, Ferocity rocks back in her chair and she looks left and right. She's like, "Wait, he was real?"
I ask myself that sometimes.
So what does Mahogany
Every
do?
now and then, he does something that makes me sure this can't be real, but it always is.
Mahogany kind of looks up blearily and just looks left and right, and he says, "Oh, I almost figured it out."
So the Arcanoloth rolls up the contract, and he says, "It's been a great pleasure to do business with you. I have found our negotiations to be very smooth and amenable. And I look forward to carrying out our contract of employment with you."
Yeah. We can reach you by sending, I assume.
He nods. He says
when the time comes.
He will make himself available. I mean, he's on your schedule. You're the boss. You hired them.
All right. Then we'll be seeing you.
Then he reaches
glad Liberation wasn't in the room.
into his stack of papers, and he pulls out a small envelope sealed with wax on the back, and he hands it over to table to Ferocity.
Ferocity takes it.
And inside are tickets to board the Dauntless.
She holds it to her chest. She goes, "Wait, tickets? How many tickets?"
How many does she need? This is their penthouse suite Jade Circlet pass. All expenses paid.
2. She needs 2 tickets.
And so yeah, there's that's what she finds in the envelope.
Now the pressing question is, who is Ferocity's +1?
She's planning on going back to Sigil and asking Aaron Montgomery to come with her.
See, I was thinking she was going to go and then go back and then just go again.
Yeah. No, she's already done that one. Once she does it once.
So, what actually happens is Ferocity attempts to board the Gauntlet, but she ends up on, like, the Phantom train this time.
But because it's a Phantom train, the ghost of El Ciclone comes by and suplexes it.
Yes.
You guys in the room with Eldov. He begins babbling. He's still in this magical sleep that Cube has put him in. And some of the Yugoloths have tended to his wounds. Did you guys allow the Yugoloths to use any magical healing on him?
No, I think Riot has that covered.
Okay. Well, I mean, they were going to try things like Lesser Restoration and Cure Wounds and things like that.
We can wait for Riot to come back in Mahogany.
And with that, I mean, they put up no argument. They don't ask to intercede. And eventually, you're alone in the room with your two sleeping companions. And Eldov begins.
Where's the crazy guy?
Oh, I guess
The
3
Mad
sleeping
Man.
companions.
Okay.
Were there any objections to them tending to his wounds and casting anything on him?
He's got a nasty bump. He's fine.
Okay. And Eldov begins speaking very, very quickly. And Nath, being a wizard, you pick up on some of the speech. He's speaking magical words, like the kinds of incantations used to cast spells.
Mm-hmm.
But he's speaking at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You only catch bits and pieces of it. Make an Intelligence Arcana check. Liberation, you can make this too, but you're making it at disadvantage.
It's 28.
28.
Wow.
Okay, I mean,
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
it's not bad.
That is a 21.
Liberation.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going on. You have no spellcasting experience yourself, but you've seen these people use spells like Sending and Message a lot. And a lot of these spells require you to speak to somebody who's not there, and then the recipient hears far on the other side. So that's what you pick up. Nath, you get that, but you also realize that Eldov is being contacted by someone or something, perhaps on another plane, through some kind of communication spell. And it's happening actively right now.
Liberation turns to Nath and says, "Hey, do you think you could bust into that?"
I'd be more tempted to try and suppress it. But he was only off the hut for how long? 20 minutes before this started?
Yeah, it's only been a handful of minutes. I mean, you haven't even really had time to get your... This was probably happening as you're starting to put your private sanctum wards and stuff up.
Okay.
If Riot were here, she would jump at the. She has the ability to get into people's brains.
I can't do that today, but I can dispel magic it.
Okay.
I'd be a little worried about hitting the sleep, though.
What level do you cast Dispel Magic at?
3rd.
A 3rd?
Yeah.
And you do indeed dispel the magical sleep. And I mean, he kind of opens his eyes and he kind of sits up, bolt upright in the bed, and breathing very heavily. The gibbering stops immediately. And he begins looking around the room.
Oh, I know what spell this was.
Yeah, I know too, but my character
Yeah.
doesn't, because he doesn't know that spell.
Do you? Because I don't my notes don't actually specify a real spell. I just have a
Oh, I
magic.
assumed it was Dream.
Yeah,
I also
if you
said
stopped
it
as
was
soon as you
true.
woke up.
But he does say that he felt like he was dreaming about a terrible, terrible man, a villain with leathery skin, a shock white beard, a scar across his eye. And such garish colors. And then he looks back and forth between the two of you, and he asks who woke him up.
Nath
Looks to Nath.
raises his finger a little bit.
And he asks what's become of his hut.
Riot signs the contract.
Nothing yet, but it's being left here.
And he shakes his head and says, "No, that won't do at all." He says, "I'm feeling much refreshed, much more like myself." And he begins explaining his plan to go back and reassert control over the hut to Nath.
How long did you have control over the hut?
It was... I gotta get my timeline up here.
Yeah, I'll tell him what the year is, by the way, in case he needs to know that.
Whatever his answer might be, Liberation will go wrong. The correct answer we were looking for is you weren't. It was just playing with you like a cat plays with its prey.
So it was 47 years ago that his name's Hut now, by the way. That he managed. So he was in control of the hut for well over a decade. So he says he gives it in terms of grand adventures that he took the hut on, and the vast amount of good that he managed to do with it, and all the work that he and his allies put into controlling it.
Well, you're lucky it took the hut so long to consume you that there's still anything left of you after nearly 50 years.
And he says it couldn't have possibly been 50. He kind of trails off. Been 50 years, and he holds his hand to his head.
When was the last time you were in Sigil?
And he says, "I am not fond of that terrible place."
Me either. But it's the one place in the multiverse you can tell someone the year, and probably anyone who's been around would know it.
He says that he received let me double check this before. Yeah, he says that he received a letter from a good friend of his who explains that a safe haven was set up for he and his companions in Sigil should trouble ever arise. He says that he believes his friend might be there now. And even though...
I'll just look at Liberation, because Nath wasn't here for most of those adventures.
Look a little confused at that. Like where exactly? Do you still have the letter on you?
Liberation was there for the tower in Sigil. It was the one the Doomguard moved into.
Yeah.
That's the tower he's referring to. Fred explained that he had... That's what led you guys to Fred, is looking into that tower and finding out that he had set up a trust to pay the taxes and whatnot on that tower into perpetuity.
When we got to it, it was filled with squatters.
And you see him mulling over this 50 years thing, and it seems to be hitting him for the first time. And he asks you, just very bluntly, he says, "Has Fred died?"
No, he's still alive.
He asks, what of Eric?
Near as I can tell, he's still alive too. Yeah.
And
yeah, he's back with his temple. It looks like.
I think they've mentioned an Eric, yeah.
And rapid fire, he asks about the rest of them in succession.
Jade Bowl takes a little bit of explaining, because Liberation's still not 100% on the whole how that whole thing worked. But
yeah, Nath will explain it. Nath will say Jade Bowl made the prudent but insane mistake of going up against the ruler of Sigil, or at least angering her, and was also trapped for probably something like 50 years. I don't know. She never regained, from when I was around her, she never regained any sense of self. So I don't know how long. I wasn't able to ask her how long.
It's kind of been going around.
Jade has been... She was trapped for considerably less time, only about 13 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
we couldn't ask her, but I think we would have known from.
Yeah.
Because
Reese.
she was Reese's mentor.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Reese would have told us. So yeah, I'll tell him that.
Okay.
But she hasn't even recovered. Last time I'd spoken to anyone in that group from that at all.
Now I wasn't there for this. Khalil, I know that my companions have run into him, but I don't really know the details on that. I'm sort of late to the party, as it were.
And he seems to be considering what you guys are telling him. And he says, at the end of it, after a few moments of silence, and what of Taryn?
That's the fun one right there. We haven't gotten eyes on him yet.
Eldov was the first one to vanish, and Taryn was the second. So last time Eldov was active, he and Taryn were working very closely together a lot of the time.
Near as we can tell, as far as the story goes, he's in the thrall of this Destin Locke character.
And the name Destin Locke, you see that there's no love for the man on Eldov's face. He hears the name and he grimaces. He says, Destin Locke caused considerable trouble for us in the long term.
Yeah, it caused considerable trouble for us too, from the look of it too, because we're going to have to go and deal with him.
And then he begins to fade. He says that he thinks he's becoming quite ill. He's going to lay back down. And he shields his eyes from the light of the room and lays back in the bed and then falls back asleep.
We're gonna have to move him.
Why?
Once
Wait
we
for
get
Mahogany to get here.
Once we get ready to get out of here, we're gonna have to move him.
I can make a disc.
Okay.
And then after a few moments, the other four join you in the room, having completed their negotiations with the Arcanoloth.
Yeah, good news, guys. Well, double good news. One, motions to Mahogany. We got our bud back.
Hi.
And two, we have entered into an arrangement with the Relentless to help us out with the Destin Locke situation.
Oh, well, we were
Oh,
just
is that what happened? Because when he said an employment agreement, I assumed we were working for him now.
Oh, no. It's the other way.
Oh, that's way better.
We've spent the last 3 days, you see, working for him. That's what we were doing that entire time.
Right. 3 days.
Weirdly, it feels more like 4 weeks. I'm not really sure why.
Mahogany, I never thought I'd say this, but it's good to see you again.
It's always good to see me.
But Liberation will break down the conversation he had with he and Nath had with Eldov, and as well as the spell that might have the spell that apparently, I guess he was talking to somebody, I guess.
Kelian
Yeah, some sort of
and Riot.
communication.
Both of you make a Wisdom 10. Kelian, you can make this at advantage.
Oh, he says, I think the property value of that tower has gone down a bit.
It's 18.
18?
Oh, actually, you know what? It's a 20 because I get to add my proficiency bonus.
And Kelian got what?
14.
When Liberation describes the man that Mahogany described, he's describing Duke Darkwood. Stern man with leathery skin, a white beard, and a scar across his eye. He, no doubt in your mind, especially Kelian's mind.
Wait a minute. Duke Darkwood was talking to this guy? How does he know Duke Darkwood?
Everyone knows Duke Darkwood.
Duke Darkwood wasn't... Wait, he wasn't Factal 50 years ago.
No, he wasn't.
No, he was not. In fact, Darkwood was likely a child 50 years ago.
Yeah. He wasn't even in Sigil. He'd probably never been to Sigil 50 years ago.
No, he's from
Yeah.
one of the Prime Material worlds. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
So,
I think the birth rate setting. Sorry.
How would he know this guy then?
Not only
Has Kelian told Riot on the journey here about them being watched? Because I don't think Riot picked up on that.
Also, has
probably
Perception's
not.
pretty low.
has Destil put up his private sanctum?
Yeah,
At this
we're in a
point,
private
yeah,
sanctum now.
That's happened.
It doesn't stop communication through magic, though. Like, we could still receive sendings.
But it would stop scrying.
It would stop anyone from scrying on us, yes.
Yeah.
Teleporting
It's,
and interplanar incursions.
My
So,
theory
Presumably,
is
they can't hear us. I can't hear our discussion right now.
right. My theory is they have a separate business arrangement with Darkwood.
And then about this time, Eldov, who is once again fallen asleep, begins resuming this arcane gibberish.
Mahogany goes over and shakes him awake.
It shakes him awake,
No. Damn it!
and he's got that. He's a cipher again. I can't. We can't talk him out of it. And he
Really?
wakes back up.
And Mahogany puts his face real close to him, and he says, I need to know something very quickly. I've met a few of your friends. Are you an enormous Burke? Because some of your friends are very nice people, but they're all enormous Burks, and I've been disappointed so many times I need to know.
And Eldov looks very confused. He doesn't know who Mahogany is, and he's not sure what a Burke is either. And he...
While
Go ahead.
while Eldov is awake, Riot is going to sit on the floor and cast Dream.
And cast Dream.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me make sure that's not going to go to shit on Acheron. You said Dream, not Freem, right?
Right, Dream.
So when I typed the word Freem into my phone, that was wrong?
It was just creative spelling.
Who are you trying to contact?
Eat delicious fruit.
Duke Darkwood.
Okay. And you have to go to sleep for that to function, right?
Yeah. I think that I would enter a state of
Yeah,
sleep.
you-
as-
Like
Yeah, you basically go into a trance.
Yeah, okay, while in the trance. Okay. So Riot goes into this trance-like state. And Eldov looks to the rest of the people in the room as you see Riot nod off, looking for any kind of any sign that this person who's shaking him awake and asking him if he's a Burke is with you or not.
Yeah, Ferocity comes over and puts an arm on Eldov's, and she says, we found him in a death hut. He's an enormous Burke.
Liberation swats Mahogany on the back of the head and kind of shoves Ferocity out of the way. Just look.
Hey!
How do you know Rowan Darkwood?
You're asking this of Eldov?
Yeah.
And he kind of looks at you quizzically. He says he's never heard the name before. He doesn't know any... He says he knows Duke Zook.
He's a duke.
Do you know?
He points out that the world he came from, it doesn't take much to become a duke. They just hand titles out like candy, apparently.
He says it very
No.
spitefully.
But no, he doesn't know.
Have you-
He doesn't know Darkwood.
Have you heard of what do they call him? The eldest Barmy? The oldest Barmy?
Yeah,
First Barmy? Something like that.
the oldest Barmy.
And again, he just
Again, nothing.
blanks. He has no idea what you're talking about.
Mahogany, do you have any healing of any sort? We didn't want the Arcanoloths to do it. Motion towards Eldov.
He says, oh yeah, I regenerate. I mean, I could cut his leg off and he'd come right back.
Don't do that.
Eldev says, "Don't do that." Riot.
Looks down at him. He says, "Are you sure? You're kind of dirty. You could use a new leg."
What is the nature of the dream that you create when you go to contact Darkwood?
We're in his longhouse, and I am posing as Eldov. And we're just having dinner.
Now, when you say posing as Eldov, like, what physical form do you take?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, in the dream, I'm Eldov.
I mean, what do you look like, though? I mean, do you look like Eldov like he looks now? Because he's emaciated, he's got scraggly white hair.
Yeah, I think I would look like Eldov as he looked on the card that we had.
Okay. So, like, not dressed in rags and things?
Yeah, because I think those are the only two versions of Eldov I've ever seen.
But not on fire and burning, also.
Right.
Make a disguise check.
Uh-huh.
Make it... No, you know, just make it. Just throw the die. Let's just see what it comes up.
Okay.
Find
1
the
second.
winner.
Because on one hand, you have the benefit of this being your dream. You have all infinite resources to make yourself look as much like Eldov as you want. But on the other hand, you don't have a good conception of what he looks like outside of that one piece of artwork.
Yeah. We never saw, like, tapestries or anything of... Wasn't there an art gallery that we found somewhere in the hut?
There was his giant closet.
Statues.
Yeah, the statues is probably the best I got.
But it didn't have a head of Eldov.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Okay.
right.
So what kind of role is this?
This is
You said disguise kit, but that's not like a thing.
Disguise kit is a thing. You just don't have a disguise kit.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a tool proficiency.
Oh yeah, it's a tool
Yeah.
proficiency. That's right. Go ahead and do deception then.
Okay.
I was third editioning for a second.
Oh man, that's only an 18.
So you make yourself look like Eldov looks on the card.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in Rowan's longhouse. And what's he doing in this dream when it starts? What do you have him doing?
Who, him or myself?
Both of you. I mean, you get to
Oh.
kind of set the stage here. It's your
Yeah,
dream.
yeah. We're sitting down for a fine meal
Okay.
together. And there's probably like figurants somewhere elsewhere, like as if it's at a party.
Okay. Specific people or just like a non-specific crowd?
Just that's like a movie term is figurants, is like background characters who have no dialogue.
Okay. So the two of you are tucking into this meal, and the dream picks up in the middle of this pleasant conversation.
Mhm.
And after a few moments, you see his fork stop as he's lifting it to his mouth, and he looks you over very carefully.
Is something wrong?
And he says, "What is your name?
It's Eldov.
And where are you now?"
Well, as you know, I can't communicate from the hut, so I had to step outside briefly.
And he asks, "Where?"
Home on Trennis. I always preferred it to Sigil, no offense.
And he takes another bite and chews very slowly. He says you remind him of someone.
No?
He says,
I always thought myself to be inimitable.
as I explained before you left me, briefly, before you served this fantastic meal, I explained that I'd been looking for you for a very long time.
And I still didn't quite understand what it is you wanted to do with me.
And he says, I can't put my finger on it. You remind me of somebody.
Says perhaps you once met a gold dragon.
And then you see him sit back in his chair, and he sets his fork back down on the table, picks his napkin up, gingerly wipes the sauce away out of his beard, and then the dream just ends. It's over. Man, Mahogany and Eldov and Ferocity and all of Nodal's other characters are all sitting on the bed now.
I have all the power.
Yeah. Well, according to Darkwood, he has been looking for Eldov for a long time. I didn't quite get why. I think he saw through the disguise.
And then Eldov blurts out, Kelian.
Hmm?
The person that I saw, he asked if I was with Kelian. He doesn't know any of your names, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been no formal introductions yet.
That's him right there. That's Kelian.
And he looks Kelian up and down. He says, I've seen shinier.
Whatever.
What's your guys' next move after the Relentless? Once you've rested and recuperated, worn out your welcome here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next
What
move?
about
Yeah, what happens with Avgi?
Acme Raise?
Are you asking like what has been happening with her while you are in the hut, or just what happens when they get her back to
what's
you?
been happening with her? Like, where did they take her?
They assure you that she's been their honored guest for the duration.
Mm-hmm.
Riot, it looks to you like she's been brutalized. She has been impressed into slavery somewhere below decks, and that was just going to be the end of her. That was going to be her fate for the rest of her mortal life until you spoke on her behalf.
Mm-hmm.
But when she's returned to you, she's alive, not 1 ounce grateful, and filled with hate.
I still don't get why the bugbear.
Maybe she's actually Jazzy Baba.
She did us a favor getting us on this boat.
I feel like we could have just come.
Tank.
And I will not consign anybody to this kind of a fate.
No, sure, rescue her, fine.
Yeah.
Just why at all?
Are you planning to take all of these NPCs back to Sigil with you? Eldov and Cube and Crazy Man and Bugbear?
Yeah.
Bugbear, we don't have to take back to Sigil because we're still on Acheron, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna leave it to her. Do you want to stay on Acheron or do you want to come back to Sigil?
She insists that she neither needs nor will accept your help.
Fine. So we'll leave you here.
Leave you here in the tender mercies.
You want a job hitting
Of the
people who
Relentless.
deserve it?
No,
Although I don't think she cares if the people deserve it before she hits them.
I'm sorry, what was my name?
Mahogany.
reflex save.
Yep.
I'm saying it's actually Hut now, as we've established.
But I'm
Yeah,
assuming
so
we're
we'll-
taking. the
So
rest of
we
them to
take
Sigil.
everybody who cares about going to Sigil back to Sigil.
Okay.
And also
Cube is very insistent that despite Eldov's protests, after the rest, Cube seems very much refreshed. He's brought some of his spellbooks with him out of the hut, the core ones at least. In game terms, it looks like Cube has received the benefits of the long rest, all his class stuff back. Eldov still looks like he's in a sorry state. Cube is very insistent that you take them back to the safety of Sigil, despite his protests.
Did the rest
Yeah,
of us get a
Sigil
long
happens.
rest?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you want a long rest, go ahead and take it.
Okay,
The
cool.
safety of Sigil. Have you been to Sigil?
Yeah, really.
Cube says that he was actually born there, in a manner of speaking. That most Modrons who... He gives you the actual percentage in his research. 88.37% of all rogue Modrons go rogue because of access to Sigil is what causes it.
I think 88.3% of all beings go rogue because of Sigil.
He says that he has Eldov and his companions to thank for his individuality. And he tells the story about where they found him and what state he was in when they came across him.
So they found
Really?
you as
Goblins?
garbage on the side of the road?
They're
They had
primes.
They had that much trouble with goblins, really?
The Adventure by the Witch is for sale on DM's Guild.
Liberation,
Pay what
they're
you want.
primes.
Get ready to hatch opens.
But you get the sense that he has a great deal of reverence for, especially Eldov and Terran, who he's worked very closely with over the years. But right now, Eldov is not in any kind of state to be making his own decisions.
So do we take him to the gatehouse or what?
Cube says to get the two of them to Sigil, and he has a few contacts he might be able to look into upon arrival. And then he will set to work making Fred's tower safe again.
All right.
Okay.
You should look up
Alright.
a guy named Tasbit. He's a Modron friend of mine.
What, all
When you
Modrons
head
know
in,
each other?
though,
Is that what you're saying?
Probably.
Is
you head to the
Frosty with
tower,
us? Oh, sorry.
if there's some water damage, that wasn't us.
Is Frosty coming with us as well?
Oh, Frosty wants to get the hell out of here.
So we've got
Cash in our tickets.
The five of us, plus
11?
Eldov, plus Cube, plus Ferocity.
Cube can plane shift.
okay.
No,
well,
actually,
that doesn't. I
yeah,
can only
no.
plane shift 8.
Not plane
so,
shift. You can't plane shift into Sigil. You got to take a portal. But
Yeah,
we
no,
have
we're
to go
gonna-
somewhere.
Yeah, gonna plane shift to
Beastlands?
what's on my list here? Yeah, plane shift to Beastlands.
okay,
Take the portal into Sigil. So I'll knock off a plane shift, and if Cube can get the stragglers.
no problem. And let's say farewell to the Relentless for the time being.
Yeah. TTFN.
So what is Ferocity's exit after returning to Sigil? Actually, belay that, because she might have something to do in this coming scene.
Oh, God.
And one more thing, Brick.
Yeah.
Before returning to Sigil, I am going to mind blank myself.
Mind blank.
Mind blank.
Mind blank.
Immune to psychic damage. Nobody can read thoughts through divination, etc., etc., etc.
Yep.
Okay. Like, what are you afraid of happening? Like, you're going to get there and...
Well,
My
Nath
players
is just
everywhere.
inherently paranoid.
Okay. I guess just on
It's
his list
surprising
anymore.
he hasn't been going around mind blanked this long, honestly.
Okay.
But yeah, mostly illithid conspiracies.
Eldov absolutely despises the idea of plane shifting to the Beastlands and using a portal inside of a cave in a wetlands on the first layer. Like, your portal is inside a swamp cave, and Eldov is the opposite of a swamp cave.
Should we tell him he kind of looks like a swamp cave?
Was that Mahogany or Ferocity?
That was Mahogany. Ferocity would never be so cruel.
I mean, what would he have us do?
There's an old, like, Strong Bad email where, like, all the versions of Strong Bad are in the same room talking to each other. That's what this is.
No, hush. He has money, right? There's magic that can deal with that. Right? Hair magic? There's no old magic. I got told that.
So you guys step through the portal back into the streets of Sigil. And it's an archway near the Trioptic Nicopona statue, which is this giant horse statue here in the Clerk's Ward, very near to the Hall of Speakers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there it is.
Two
I love
things
that.
strike you as incredibly odd immediately upon coming into Sigil. The first is that this giant horse statue that you guys step out of the alley, you usually have a great view of. It's owned and operated by the Sign of One. And there is a very useful portal in the center of the horse statue and the sign of one. They're not. They don't want to regulate the portal. They're not allowed, but they contract a group of 12 Doomguard to stand in a ring around it. So there's always eyes on everybody who uses that portal. And those Doomguard are present 24/7. And you guys walk by this statue all the time, because I mean, like, Mahogany's here and Riot's here. Like, this is your main thoroughfare. There's no Doomguard in sight. The second thing you see, or that strikes you as odd, is the crowds of people usually milling around at this time of day in Sigil are absent.
What time of day is it?
Midday.
Okay.
And then, looking up above you, somewhere in the ladies' ward, back through the veil of fog and mist and smog, there's a gargantuan explosion. The whole scene, it lights up the sky above you, directly opposite on the other side of Sigil. So over here in the ladies' ward is where that explosion must have come from. And then debris starts raining down over all of you. Shrapnel and bits of stone and building, a body part or two that's been flung across the gravity barrier in the center of the ring, and it's starting to rain down on the street all around you.
I put a perpendicular wall of force to the ground, about 20 feet up, above the street, as much as I can cover.
Even here? Even when I go back to Sigil?
And Eldov says, I'm sure glad you guys brought me to Sigil. Nice to be back.
It's not usually raining this.
No, this is new.
What the liberation, like,
Where?
Any idea where what just exploded up there?
It's about 170 degrees on the ring. I think that's the ladies' ward.
Anybody who, I would say Nath wouldn't be able to do this, because you have not lived and operated in Sigil, but everybody else who's lived here all the time, I'll let you guys make a quick knowledge history. So intelligence history.
I'm going to make ferocities, because she has a way better intelligence history than Mahogany.
That's fine. Is Mahogany even aware there is a ladies' ward?
It's like, oh, there's the ladies' place.
Right, got an 18.
18?
12.
You beat me.
Beat me by a lot.
Sorry, I'll correct that. It's about 170 degrees on the ring. I don't know where goddamn city that is.
Those of you who scored a 12 or better, you have a pretty good sense of looking across the ring at any given point. And you can almost never see the other side of the ring for usually the smog, depending on where you're standing. But it would almost certainly be in the ladies' ward somewhere near to the armory, which is Doomguard headquarters.
Seems like the Doomguard are having a bad day.
I think it's time for some rubbernecking. Liberation starts breaking off.
Yeah.
To start making his way around the ring.
Wait 1 second.
In which direction, Liberation? Are you going to go through the ring, through the Guild Hall and Market Ward and come around this way? Or are you going to go through the Hive and come around this way?
No, I'm gonna go through the market.
Okay. Let me actually make a note of where you're going here.
I'm gonna cast Disguise Self to look like the same human I usually disguise myself as, and go.
Mahogany does the opposite, and he puts all of his magic shit on. And he says, I want to make it very clear that today is the wrong day to mess with this group of people.
Okay. Are you two going with him through the Market Ward to the Ladies' Ward?
Yeah.
Yeah, Riot's coming too, and Riot's going to direct Eldov. So if you want a safe place to stay, go back that way, the opposite way, to the Temple of Aasimar. They'll give you a bed.
Kelian, are you going as well?
Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like the idea of... Okay, yeah.
Cube asks Riot for the precise street name. Actually, he just heard Nath give in Radians where he saw it, so he asked Nath for, like, the Radian of Osprey's temple.
Oh, in radians, I was doing degrees. Let's see, probably about 0.2 radians, and then 3/4 of the ring, counter-cyclonic to the rotation of the radians.
Corner of Pride and Founders.
He says he'll get Eldov safely to the temple.
All right.
He asks, if there's any objection to him raising magical protections over Eldov while he's there.
Please do.
Have fun.
Yeah.
What do you guys do with the Barmy?
We'll send him along with Cube.
Okay. So Mahogany, you're just getting geared up, like you're ready to party?
Oh yeah, and as he does so, he's walking forward, and he points out Ferocity, who is already, like, moving towards where the explosion was, and he said, "That's a sensate right there. If we get there and there's not a ring of sensates, this has been happening a lot."
You guys make it partway through the Guildhall ward, and Mahogany, you see something that you have known to happen in Cypher history, but that has not happened in an incredibly long time. Is as you're walking by the gymnasium, there are crowds of Cyphers. You guys are kind of walking perpendicular to them. You're crossing the Guildhall ward over into the bazaar. They're all moving kind of catty corner to you on the way directly to the gymnasium. You put on all your gear and shit. So you've got your Cypher colors on.
Mm-hmm.
They stop and they approach you, and they have a great sense of urgency about them. It's a group of 4 or 5 Cyphers.
Yep. What do they need? What's going on?
They say they need you to come with them to the gymnasium.
Yep, and Mahogany turns and says, "Sorry guys, but I don't really even like the Doomguard," and just runs with the Cyphers.
Liberation shrugs and says, "About what I expected." Keeps going.
Riot is gonna, as we're walking, cast Ascending to her Doomguard friend, whose name I'm trying to remember.
Okay.
Um,
Make an Arcana check.
okay. I think I was just about to use that die.
This is a bard spell, right?
Yes.
You do this Charisma Arcana, not Intelligence.
Oh, great. That case, it's an 11.
11. The spell doesn't work, and you immediately realize why. The target of the sending is dead.
Oh. Well. Okay.
That's not good.
It's a very abrupt sensation. Like there's not even anything to plug into on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Something. They're having a very, very bad day at the armory. We need to go faster.
Yeah.
And as you guys cross into the bazaar, again, the streets are not deserted, but there's very few people milling about. The only people you see milling about in the bazaar are people that don't have somewhere to hole up, it looks like. There are a lot, in addition to that, there are a lot of rugged-looking indepts that in full battle gear. A lot of them are armed, groups of them in places.